Okay, alright, fine. Avengers Endgame is out. Exams are basically over. I can sit down and talk about this movie! Movie! Let's begin.
I am Iron Man. You think you're the only superhero in the world? Mr. Stark, you become part of a bigger universe. You just don't know it yet. Who the hell are you? Nick Fury, director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Oh. I'm here to talk to you about the Avenger Initiative.
Avengers Endgame. Wow. Avengers Endgame. The culmination to 22 movies and 11 years of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. A thing that, you can't necessarily, well, I don't like the word can't. I don't like using the word can't. But let's use it in this one respect. Can't wrap your head around the idea of having 22 movies, a franchise having 22 movies in 11 years. This is phenomenal. And it's saw the return of the Russo brothers directing this. They directed Infinity War, they directed Civil War, they directed Winter Soldier, which arguably is one of the better MCU movies. There are some people who will say it is the best MCU movie. I'm depending on the day, I'm inclined to agree, but I'm more of a phase one kind of guy. And it is great. It is feelings and emotions and questions and theories and, sitting down in your room at like 2 a.m. and suddenly being like, but does that mean that, but could it also mean that, yes, it does. That's what Endgame is about. Endgame is about that. Endgame is the love letter to fans. Now, it's not the end of Phase 3 particularly. The end of Phase 3 comes with Spider-Man Far From Home. Think of that as more like the epilogue to the story, because Spider-Man Far From Home will take place after the events of Avengers Endgame. There are two persons that we really must thank for Avengers Endgame. Two persons in particular, and that is Jon Favreau and Joss Whedon. Obviously Kevin, obviously the Russo brothers, but I feel like if we really are going to give Avengers Endgame its true propers, then we really must thank Jon Favreau and Joss Whedon. These are two guys who helped build the MCU at certain points. John, when the first Iron Man was coming out, they couldn't get writers, nobody wanted to direct it, all sorts of randomness was going on, and John and Robert, and they sat down, Robert and Gwyneth, and obviously Kevin, they all sat down there and kind of formulated this script and this movie on the fly. So the story goes. But he set that up. He helped build that world. And then Joss comes in. Joss comes in and does the Avengers movie. And I feel looking at Avengers Endgame, whether it was intentional or not, as much as it was a love letter to fans, this really is a love letter to John and Joss. There are so many payoffs that are linked to Iron Man and what John did and Joss's first two Avengers. And I say first two Avengers because Age of Ultron for a lot of people is not necessarily their top tier movie. But there are things that happen in Avengers Endgame that justifies Joss's choices, his style, his why he did that. And even stuff like, there are payoffs. I mean, I'm going all over the place, but you will still be able to follow the stream. There are payoffs in this movie that you didn't even know you needed, and it fits so well inside Joss's world and John's world. And that's why I keep saying it over and over, that this really is a love letter to John and Joss. The Russo brothers did justice by those two guys, those two pioneers of the MCU.
You know, with the benefit of hindsight.
The world is dark and full of feelings, and the Avengers have to set it right. Well, those who remain have to set it right somehow. And even though there is pain and darkness and chaos in the world, there still is a healthy amount of humor, which, if you know me, that's one of my major gripes with Marvel, with the MCU. I don't need a humor train all the time in every movie. But I will say that Avengers Endgame sort of mirrors, and I said this for Captain Marvel too, I believe, but it sort of mirrors how Phase 1 humor was. It's right when it needs to be. It diffuses situations when it needs to, but it's not over the top. It's not useless. It has a point, the humor.
Legend tells us one thing, history another. But every now and then we find something that belongs to both.
What is it?
Power, Doctor. If we can figure out how to tap it, maybe unlimited power.
Well, I guess that's worth a look. Well, I guess that's worth a look.
This movie should not work. It really shouldn't. There's so many, and I've said this before, there's so many callbacks and tie-ins to all the movies that came before that it really should not work, and yet the directors and the writers have woven together this narrative so splendidly that you just have to be like, well done, 10 points. Take all the points.
Just like Budapest all over again.
You and I remember Budapest very differently.
Avengers Endgame is big and bombastic and yet very intimate. I had said this in my initial thoughts when I saw the movie. You get to see the story of the lives of those who remain in a very rapturous kind of way. You see the pain that Natasha is going through. You understand why and where Clint is mentally, emotionally. And I'm sending out a special shout out to those two. It's kind of amusing to me that, people always look at them and be like, they're the useless ones in the group. These are the same people who say things like, oh, superheroes must be real. What's more real than having two characters who are human, who are not super soldiers or enhanced in any which way, form, or fashion, using their intellect and their skills in order to survive? One is a Russian assassin, the other one knows how to shoot an arrow. To be honest, I will take arrows over guns any day, or a super serum. Okay, maybe not, but maybe I might do a super serum, who knows. The point is, Clint and Natasha always end up getting in the fan base like the soggy end of the stick, yeah. But I really do believe that, especially in this film, they really do shine. If you are a fan of the Captain Marvel movie, you're going to like how she plays out here. If you're not a fan of the Captain Marvel movie, you'll probably still like how she plays out here.
Trouble sleeping?
You here with a mission, sir?
I am.
Trying to get me back in the world?
Trying to save it.
Now, obviously, you know I like living in IMAX. That's no secret. But I do believe that if you are going to see this movie, go see it the way it was intended. You can go see it wherever you want to. It's your choice. That's life. But I recommend going to see it in IMAX. The visuals for that is so stunning. The sound quality is joy. Yeah, and go see it a couple times. You have to go see it a couple times. It's not a one and done kind of movie because you will leave there having your feelings dealt with. Very Drake in my feelings. Peppa, do you love me? Are you riding? Sorry, I had to. But the point is, go see it multiple times. But you will have questions, and there are things that you will want to revisit to find out, ooh, my brain. But I suspect that when summer fully kicks in, that whole July-August period, last year, there was like these specials where you actually got to see Black Panther and Infinity War. You might have that same scene again.
Gentlemen, you're up.
In closing, Avengers Endgame sets up possibilities. I can see possibilities for where an X-Men movie can come in. I can see possibilities for where Fantastic Four could play in. Even though they said that they're not particularly dabbling in that sandbox just yet, I could still see it. I want to just throw this out to fans on the whole. What Marvel Studios has done is fantastic. It is not necessary to do it with every franchise, nor do I personally, film critic, want that. I do not need a Hasbro Mattel universe. I am hearing talk about Transformers and G.I. Joe. No, I don't need that. It's not necessary. It is not necessary to have a dark universe. Just give me a mummy film that was good and then say, okay, this mummy film was good. Now we're going and do Invisible Man, and then we're going and do Bride of Frankenstein, etc. And it certainly is necessary for DC to copy what Marvel Studios has done. No. It is not necessary. I like that with a Marvel universe, things stagger. You can say, oh, this is a progression. But to quote something that the late John Schnepp once said, when you go into a comic book store, you have a pull list. And you take from this patch, and you take from this batch, and you take from this batch. There are at least, at any given moment, 4 different Batman stories, 3 Wonder Woman variants. There's a team-up book, there's a non-team-up book, and it all just lives in its own thing. Rarely you will have like a big event where everybody has to come in, like Trinity Wars, where it was the Justice League and the Justice League of America and Justice League Dark, and things were filtering into people's individual books, or like Rebirth. It's not necessary for them to do that in the movie. So, you know what? Give me a Birds of Prey movie. Yes, thank you very much. I will be in the cinema later on this year God Spare Life to sit down and watch Joker. That's great. I don't need to know that this Joker ties to that and we're building a universe. No, no. What Kevin Feige and company did for the MCU is fine. Let his brother nerd Jeff Johns do what they think is best for DC so that we can all thrive and we can all enjoy it.
Samuel L. Jackson, Nick Fury.
It is my great pleasure to introduce my right-hand man, Agent Coulson, Clark Gregg. My right-hand woman, you know her as Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson. The God of Thunder, Chris Hemsworth. The first Avenger, Captain America, Chris Evans. You know him as Tony Stark. He is Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr.
Playing Clint Barton in the role of Hawkeye, Jeremy Renner. Bruce Banner, Mark Ruffalo. Our director, Joss Whedon.
This cast is more than I could ever have dreamed of working with. My dream team. This is the Avengers.
Avengers Endgame. Mwah! Thank you, Marvel. Thank you, IMAX. And thank you for watching. Remember, you can subscribe and stuff. Peace!